My name is Heidi Szpek. I'm an Emerita professor, Central Washington University, Washington State, not Washington, D.C. And I got connected with this almost by accident. In 2004, I was sent images to translate. And after about 4 or 5 years translating them, I wrote articles, I visited, and I think visiting made me realize I wanted to be part of something bigger. And I met students from this German organization, came back year after year to work with them, and then now the Deegans, I guess we all have something that we offer to this project. So I can offer my language skills and my knowledge of the history here. Yeah, thank you. The name Bagnowka, as Jack already discovered, you'll find on the outside of the main entrance. It's indicated there. When we get over to the Ohel of Rabbi Halpern, okay, more relatives of the Halperns, just joking. It's also named as such there. Other than that, it's often just sometimes called the New Jewish Cemetery. Established in about the beginning of 1892, last burial 1969, somewhere in the distant area. The cemetery itself, you'll see it was a traditional Jewish cemetery. By traditional, the word at the time that was used was mithnagdik or mithnagdim, not quite the word for Orthodox, but that was a time where the world was regulated by the rabbis, teachings of the Talmud, the Torah. And this was the last, almost the last Jewish cemetery open in Bialystok. The last one, of course, was the Ghetto Cemetery. And before that was the old one on Central Park, the one on Bima, and maybe a poorhouse one even earlier. This once covered about 40 acres, now 30 acres are what is left. Part of it is where some of the housing is there, and a good third is still covered by the woods. And keep in mind, on the other side, the Catholic cemetery extends here. There's also a Russian Orthodox and a little Lutheran one. So this whole complex is where Tsarist legislation required the community, not just the Jews, but to have cemeteries outside of the city at that time.
That's why the Central Park Cemetery closed down?
Yes, well,
Not
it was
because
also,
it was full
and they couldn't build another one, so they looked here. But this was the last one. The Catholic and the Orthodox were built before. But it's still unusual to have all of these, let's say, peacefully cohabitating together, at least in rest.
Why did the Tsar want them outside the city?
It was not just for this community, it was in general the areas, that it was no longer deemed to be hygienic to build cemeteries right next to, housing in that way. So it's pretty standard. It was nothing poking a finger at anyone, right? So why don't we, just so you know, main entrance here, another identical entrance down there, and one service entrance here. Burials here were by the time you died. In other words, these sections opened up first. If you died at that time, you were buried here, and then they progressed out in that way. So families will not necessarily be buried together. It's time of death. This had been collapsed in the earth probably since the 50s. So it was re-erected, the largest and heaviest on cemetery, to one of the most affluent bankers in this community. And we cleaned it, and it was repainted.
What's the name?
His name, Dov Ber Aharon, and the last name, Holis. Okay, but you'll see also the Russian there, yes. Yes, at one time, I think maybe you've seen pictures, the mausoleum would have had beautiful doors, would have had beautiful windows. There's been damage. Originally, this was put up in 1922, over the gravesite. He was from, I think, about 1892 till about 1922. He served as chief rabbi.
But it was paid from the funds transferred by Bialystok to Jews. They domiciled in New York.
Yes. Does that sound?
So one summer, Heidi came and did a survey of all the Jewish cemeteries in and around Bialystok in Poland, not in Belarus. That document is on the website of in Jewish Gen of the Bialystok group. It was a very good document. It was not much has changed since then.
I just want to draw your attention to these two. We lifted this one and cleaned it. The name Topolsky, if you remember, some of you, I mentioned Pinkas Topolsky down there. These are his 3 younger brothers. And I remember this one was actually photographed and sent to me from Tomic sent this one to me.
All 3 buried here at one time?
Yes, and if you read it, it starts up, 3 children burnt in a fire. And I remember seeing those words. Yes, and the Topolsky, Chaim Lev 8, Shalom Shechna 6, and Yisrael Avram 4. All were the four sons of Osher Tucholsky, who was a prominent community member, food relief. During massacres, he was the one who actually worked with the bodies and that. But he himself owned a glassware factory. And what it suggests is the family lived above that factory. It started on fire. He lost his 3 children. And then he lost his other son, that we have there. We don't know from what. And in the 20s, I think it was the 20 pogrom, he left for Israel. And I cannot blame him after what he witnessed here, where they have rooms. Yes, absolutely. Right. Pogrom. So if you go visit the pillar, you start here, the front side, and walk around this way. Typically, too many people come this way thinking that's the front side. I'm over particular. But what was exciting that year that we worked in this area, as we started lifting some of these tombstones here, we realized the names here match the victims. And they are arranged by the massacre, but also by women.
All in front.
Yeah, all in front, but we've got
That's
pictures.
why it faces this way.
Right, they face this way, but it suggests that there were more. There are some pictures where you see these little symbolic ones on both sides crowded around. But think about it, you should have here over 100 some. They're not, some of them are gone. But it's the pillar and all the stones here stretching in this area that remember 3 devastations. 2 massacres in 1905 and the 1906 pogrom.
I came to Bialystok hoping to find this. It's my great-grandmother's stone. Her name was Heidi Szpek. She married Joseph. He was a ritual slaughterer. Right?
Yes.
Heidi? Can you read what it says?
Right. Well, the English is, here lies the modest, God-fearing woman, Chaya Shifra, daughter of Reb Moshe Minas, wife of Reb Yosef, the ritual slaughterer. She died on Monday, the 9th of Nisan, and the year is about 1903. May her soul be bound in the bond of everlasting life.
Amen.
And tell me about this part of
The candelabra there represented the woman's role of lighting the Shabbat candles, and when her life ended, in some cases, the little candles themselves, the wicks are broken. But on either side, they're flanked by birds, which are often symbolic of kind of the movement of this life to something on. So a very traditional, beautiful representation.
And this stone has been restored and it will be replaced here.
Right.
So this is her
The
grave
place,
right
yeah.
here.
This is where, yeah.